Oh hey guys, let's make an awesome dust poof. So I've got this thing going on here with these 4 different dust poofs. I'm inside of my flipbook symbol. To get a little update on how I got to this point, you can see the previous tutorial in the series. But let's figure out how to make this look awesome. So I'll start with this shape here. And I want a color, so I can eyedrop this. I want something that's closer to red, just slightly. Because this is like magical, let's say it's magical love energy, right? We'll make it hotter pink in the middle, so I want it a little more saturated, something like that. Let's make it less saturated. I'll eyedrop that again. Less saturated in the middle, closer to white. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do. So I'm thinking mostly when I make this shape, thinking of a couple things. Number one, this shape that I'm going to draw is going to be how thick the smoke cloud is, and thus how opaque it is. Does that make sense? So this would be like a very boring way of doing it, where, you know, this area here that I've drawn is like where the cloud is thickest and most dense, so it's harder to see through it. That means it's more opaque. But out here on the edges, it's kind of subtly fading off, etc. That's those shapes are not good, so I'm not going to go with those. But what I can do is I can draw some shapes closer to the edge and others much further away from the edge, like so. Maybe something like that. So I can create some nice variation. I can erase out negative shapes if I want. This whole stalk through here is like equally thin, and you guys know how much I hate that by now. So I'm going to make it more wobbly wob. And I want some areas to be straight up and down, and I'll show you why later. No, that doesn't need to be straight up and down. Maybe just the bottom half of that. Yeah, that looks good. You can hold Shift, by the way, with the eraser tool, and it will make a perfectly straight line, either sideways or up and down. Pro tip. Alright, so we got this dude here. Maybe he does something like that. Sure! I like it. I like it. It's looking good. We got that shape there. Burp, burp, burp. So you got these random middle shapes. I don't know. They look good, right? Now go back to your other layer, because that's all on a different layer. Go back to the base layer, and you can draw these shapes. I'm going to lock the highlight layer. I'm going to call that highlight layer, and I'm going to make sure I'm down here on my puff layer. Well, the radiating lines are in the middle there. I probably don't need those. I'll move those down out of the way. So I go to my puff layer, and let's see, I'm going to draw some shapes like so that follow kind of the flow of the overall thing. I'm going to turn that into outline mode so I can actually see where I'm drawing underneath here. And I'm going to carve out whole sections. In this case, ooh, that's fun. Carve this shape out here. I'm going to carve into it deeper, and then, yeah, something like that. So it's going to hit that edge. Now, again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but, and then this one is going to be this big shape here. Now these shapes that I'm carving out are going to be where my gradient falls off. So like, imagine this whole area here being a soft transition from the solid up at the top down to faded off to this gap down at the bottom. Same is true for all 3 of those that I carved out. To do that, I'm going to use the gradient tool. So I drop my color, go to radial gradient. Oh, I already did this before. By default, it'll look something like this. I'll get it to the default here. It'll be like white and black, like that, right? So you double click on these little guys here, and then you can select this color. You can eyedrop out there, and then you double click on this guy, double click so you get the eyedropper, and do the same thing. And then you want to come over here to the shape on the left side, which will be the center of your radial gradient of your circle. And then you want to change the alpha down to 0. Sometimes it's stubborn and the alpha won't change. So to get it to be unstubborn, you kind of have to wiggle around your color up here and then change the alpha some more, and it'll work. I'm sorry, blame Adobe. I wish I could do something about it. Okay, so K for paint bucket. By default, the paint bucket tool has this little lock symbol next to it. You see that little lock there? You want to unlock it so that when you paint fill, it does a gradation from the point where you click. So where I click is this color on the left, which is transparent. And then out here at the other edge, it's opaque. I actually like that. I actually like the way that that's working. It's working. Okay, I can double click on that line and delete it. And I can kind of bend this up here, fiddle around all I want. Paint fill that guy and paint fill that guy. And I can double click these lines. And now I can hit F. Whoa, don't hit that key. I just hit F. And then if you tap on the paint fill, you'll see that you have the gradient transform selected, where you can scale these dudes. See where I'm going with this? Yeah. And then I want to scale it up so that it's nice and faded off there. I can even come over here and I can make this center slide left to right. You see what that's doing over there on my fill? Makes it really, really subtle fade off over there. And if I want, I could scale this down and more sideways so that the curve of this fade off matches the curve of the gap a little more closely. I can rotate it with this guy here if I want, and scale it side to side to try to get it so it looks like it's just, see how it's just fading off into nothingness right there? That's nice, I like that. Don't worry about these hard edges right now, we're going to fix that in a minute. Hit the F key again, go down there, maybe rotate that guy and scale him out. Whoa, that's not what I wanted. I want this scale. There's uniform scale is one of these, and then side to side scale is the other one. Yeah, sure, that looks good. Alright, turn back on my highlights, and turn off this guy. Maybe I should have drawn these highlights second, eh? I drop the highlight, and sure, just leave some overlap there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's looking good. Alright, I like it. So I'm gonna do a fancy trick now. You guys ready for this? It's gonna blow your mind. If you click on this guy on the frame, it'll select all of the different fills. You can hit F8. You want this to be a movie clip because we're gonna add a filter. You cannot add filters to graphic symbols. If you click on this layer, it'll select everything on the layer. You can hit F8, make that a movie clip as well. The filter I want to add, I can add over here in the Properties panel when the movie clip is selected. I can add a filter, and I want to do a blur. I want to set that to high quality. I want to unlock this over here, and I only want to blur the X5, but I want to blur the Y like, I don't know, 20? Yeah, 20 looks good. And you see instantly what happened. If I hide the highlight, already this is looking like a nice painted poof. And I can adjust that even more by coming in here to the 5. If I hit that 5 down to 0, you see what happens is it's not blurring side to side, and so you get this nice crisp edging, which makes it feel like it's moving upward. You see that? All right, now we'll do the same thing to the highlights here. Blur that guy out. I'm probably way too excited about this, but I get a kick out of this stuff. Leave a comment if you also get a kick out of this stuff. Yeah, I'll do it 10 on the vertical. Why not? And now you can kind of evaluate, how well things are working. In this case, I don't know, there's some weirdness. There's like these weird hard edges going on, so maybe what I need is a slight side-to-side blur. That kind of helps. Maybe blur it more vertical. Maybe blur it 20, just like the other one. I'm not sure. Okay, I like it. So now you've got what appears to be a nice hand-painted swoop-de-whoop dust poof going on. And when you get some weirdness going on, like in areas like this, and you're just like, I don't like it. What's cool about this is you can go inside, unlike in Photoshop where you've applied a permanent smudge or something to it. You can go inside and you can kind of bow that out there a little bit, and so it now feels a little different. It's kind of cool. It's picking up on that hard edge pretty roughly. Yeah, there we go. There we go. And I can go inside of my highlight layer and see where that point is coming down. It's throwing things off. Maybe I don't want that sharp point there because it feels weird. I can double click out of it, and now I've got a nice fall off there. What works really well is when you can get the two to line up. So I'll show you what I mean. I can turn on outline mode on this guy so I still see those crisp edges. And then when I go into this guy and I turn on outline mode, I can see where there's an opportunity to get that outline to match up. I can draw that line and then delete this fill and then double click that guy and delete. And now if I do that, you can see how there's this serendipitous collision of swoopiness. Serendipitous collision of swoopiness. That's what I'm after. Give this guy a little bit of something. Yeah, that feels a little better. All right, so we got a dust poof, and it feels kind of magical, right? It feels like it could fly off into space. It's ready to go for a 3D game production right away. And the best part is it's all vector, so you can still adjust your vector shapes if you want, and it's easy to like switch out your colors. Like, you know, I can come into this guy and say, oh, it's actually, I want this to be toxic green, lime green, avocado. No, that's toxic green. There we go. And I want this guy to be, I don't know, yellow or something, right? And so now I've got an entirely different thing, and I'll change these to some kind of green. Anyway, point is, you get the idea, right? You can switch around your colors very easily. I mean, I guess in Photoshop you can also have things on different layers too. There's pros and cons to both. Honestly, I use Photoshop for smudging and blurring, but I thought it was kind of cool because I know a lot of you guys out there work in Flash, and like your end result is Flash sometimes. And so it's kind of cool to have this option for these like fuzzy blurry effects that are still in vector and extremely small file size and so forth. All right, I'll hit undo. I'll get that guy pink again because, like I said, purple, man, that's where it's at. I'm hitting undo a lot. Nothing, no big secret there. That's how I did that. All right, so this time I'll cut these shapes out first. So let's see, I want a gradient there. I'll leave this as like a solid mass. That may be kind of interesting. And then I'll chop that off into, I'll have this section here faded off. All right, double click on my square here, make sure I got my right color selected. I just want that purple. And unlock my fill. By the way, if I just hit fill with it locked, it makes it that size, which you don't want. So unlock it and then hit fill, and it'll do it from the center point. Bah! There's a gap. There's a gap right there. There we go. Paint filled that dude up real good. Yeah, I definitely want that center point. Well, I want that center point down here somewheres. So that's nice. And you can play around with your gradient too. Like maybe I don't want it totally transparent. Maybe I want it at like 25%. You know, so that it still shows up a little bit down there at the bottom there. I'll double click on these lines and hit delete. There we go. I actually kind of like this big one. I'll just make, whoops, I'll just make some minor edits like that, and that's it. That's the only edit I'm going to make. This guy, I just wanted him to be kind of evenly faded off, so I'm going to kind of do that, and so just kind of fainted. Go, maybe that tip can do its thing. Yeah, I'm not sure I like how evenly spaced that guy is. Maybe I'll taper it a little more. Besides, that gives me more of an upward motion going, because now this line is more vertical. Yeah. Be like those lines, okay. And then maybe I can come over here and make that a little more vertical too. Just a little bit. Alright, so time for my highlight shapes. Let's see, I dropped that color. Wait, make sure I get the right color. Go inside of it, select it. And then I'll lock the layer below. Below. Make sure I'm still thinking of, like, you know, how it's going to blur vertical, right? So I want some cool verticality. Like so. Maybe leave that there. Maybe this guy kind of intrudes on that gradation territory a little bit. A little schemer. Little schemer there. Alright. Now the beauty of this is I can hit F8 movie clip, unlock that guy, hit F8 movie clip, and I can actually, with this previous frame selected, with this previous object selected, over here I can click on the blur, I can copy selected, I can go to this guy, and if I scroll down I can see the clipboard, and I paste. So now I've just applied that filter that I worked so hard to balance perfectly, and I'm going to come over here, I'm going to copy, copy all or copy selected, either one works, and paste that guy. So there we go. So now we got two swoop-de-whoop dust poofs that are feeling fancy. The fun thing about this, you see how this gradation, I just want to point this out here. So you see how it's like dark right here, and then it gradates out gradually to get it over here. What that feels like is it feels like a spiral, right? Like it's like going off into the distance behind, tucking behind this dude. So it gives it some three-dimensionality. You see that? Got this harsh line in the foreground here, and then this line tucking back in, and then it's kind of doing something similar here where there's a shape in the foreground coming in front, and then that guy is folding back behind. And then this guy here is just, you know, an accent cloud. I will admit right now, you don't get as much control about blurring and smudging in Flash like you do in Photoshop. But it's still fun. It's still fun, guys. I mean, aren't you having fun? I'm having fun. Could be just me. Right. Chop off this guy, because obviously that's a weird secondary shape that's, yeah, I mean, obviously. Right. Let's see here. Maybe maybe we'll leave this big shape there intact, and then maybe I'll just come in like so. Maybe I will. I can actually go inside of this shape, and I can eye drop that gradient. So I just have it like that. I want to unlock it again. And you don't want to leave any gaps in your lines here. You see there's a nice gap right there. And so I can drag that snapping turned on right there and snap it into place. Is that? Yeah, that looks good. Alright, fill in all three of these. Double click on these lines. Are you seeing a pattern? Okay. What do I want to do here? I don't know. We'll do something fun, something different. Something not boring. I'm trying to find what's not boring. It's generally my job in the first place with effects is find what's not boring. Figure out the thing that's cool and do it. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess so. I'm gonna have some fun with this guy. I'm gonna squeeze it real skinny and make it big. Like that. Sure. It's weird that it would be more opaque right here. You kind of got to think about this, right? Like why would it be more opaque here and gradate out like that? It just doesn't feel right. Like you either want to put this center in the middle of a circle, or you want to put it on an edge where everything coming out from it feels like it's flowing. Maybe I just need to make this corner flow into that corner like that. A little better. I'm doing it, guys. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make this happen. See what I did there? Flow. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, okay. And then erase this guy here so he's a little more, well, we'll leave it unpointed and just see how that looks. Might look weird. Might look awesome. Let's find out. Okay, go back and eyedrop this beautiful color. By the way, if you'll notice something sometimes when you click into a shape, it's all selected. If you hit eyedrop, boop, and then you deselect it, something terrible has happened. The entire shape is now one color. Whatever color it is you eyedropped. If I hit undo a couple times, and then I go back in again, and I first click off of the shape, you see that my gradients are still there, that these are not filled in the same color as this. That's because if I select a fill and then I eyedrop another fill and then deselect, it essentially changes that fill instantly into whatever you eyedropped. So be careful when you're coming into a symbol to select a color, because it's very easy to select it, not realize that you've now changed the entire shape to that one color, and then you go out and do your other things, and then you come back later and you realize that you've made a terrible mistake. All right. I'm feeling like a core shape that's going to kind of bob and weave. Oh man, all that, and I didn't select the right. Oh man. There, I selected the right color. Jeez, guys. Okay, so I bring this up here, and I want it to bob and weave. I don't think I'm succeeding, guys. Yeah, that's what I meant. I want it to bob and weave side to side. So it's touching this edge, and then it's touching this edge, and then it comes back to sort of hang out on this edge again. Sure, it's good. It's good, right? And I'll do another shape up there just because that's fun. Don't get too sloppy with these shapes. I mean, I get it. I understand. Like, you're going to blur it anyway, but how you design this portion of it, it really does have an impact on what is to come. Fate. Let's see, the last filter I pasted was for the highlight, so I think I can just come in here, paste that guy. Yeah. You know, I could probably just paste the same one on this guy, because it's just a blur, right? And then, like, I don't know, maybe that's good. Maybe I'll blur it 40. Yeah, real blurry. Oh, that's not enough side to side, though. It's, like, looking pretty bad over here. It's like 10. Now it's just fuzzy. The problem in Flash with this thing is you start to lose the diagonal motion. Remember these guys, the radiating lines? yeah, you start to lose the crispness along the radiation. Radiation? In Photoshop, you can eyeball it. You can kind of like hand smudge along those lines so it keeps these edges crisp. But you know what else I can do? I can cheat. Cheat like a bandit. Because bandits, those guys are known for their cheating. Alright, select my color. I'm going to come up here. Watch this, guys. See what I'm doing? Right? And I mean, you can go nuts on this stuff. You can like, I'll tell you one thing. If you really want, anything is possible. Anything is impossible or possible with Flash. So I got this shape. I'm going to go inside of it, and I'm going to rotate it so straight up and down. Straight up, straight down. Straight. Turn off snapping so you can actually rotate it. Alright, and then I'm going to come back out. You still with me? And I'm going to rotate it back into place. Alright, so it's all matchy right there. You see where this is going. If I go inside of this guy, and then I turn this guy into a symbol, F8, and then I put my blur on this guy. It didn't work, guys. It's blurring straight up and down, regardless of how I rotate it. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? The blur is a post process, and I cannot. That stinks. That's kind of limiting. Adobe, please. Give us the thing we want and let us blur directionally other than on the X and Y axis. You see what that would have done though? It would have blurred it out in that diagonal. Delete that. Useless. Flash, you have failed me. How disappointing. It's not the first time. It won't be the last. Alright, so this edge is weird. I'm just going to say it. This crisp edge doesn't seem to belong there, so I'm going to delete it. Delete. Delete. There we go. It's better, right? Yeah, that'll do. I like that better. Next frame, and the final frame. We are close to finished. I'm going to eyedrop that color, and I'm going to just, well, first I'm going to tell you what I'll do. I'm going to do this. Alright, there we go. Make sure that this is touching, because I've made that mistake before. And there's another mistake I just made. Can you see it? I drew my lines on the wrong layer. I drew them up on the highlight layer instead of down on the puff layer. So that means these guys, they ain't gonna do squat for me. So I can simply, if I've done that with them selected, by clicking on this frame, I can hit Control X. Then I can click on the correct layer and do Control Shift V. Select over here my radial gradient. It should remember the last gradient I used, if it's behaving. Alright, and then I can double click these and delete them. Okay, what am I looking at? I want something really gradual for this. In fact, I kind of want this to be really, really subtle, like gradual fade off city over here. Okay. Rotate this a little bit. And for this guy, I'm just worried about this being so seamy in the middle there now. Solved? Maybe? We shall see. Alright, let's see here. The neighbors are home. Alright. I like it. It's better. We can bring this in more. Oh, I turned off snapping. I'm like, it's not doing the thing it's supposed to do. I'll just bring this in more there. There we go. There we go. I guess that's that nice ribbony feel. Yeah, it'll work. Okay. Highlights. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional. Actually, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I hope you enjoy the videos anyway. Okay. Because I have my layer down here locked, I can safely use the erase tool. Let's just make this simple. Ugh, that's weird. Yeah, that's better. You want your shapes to come together in non-awkward ways. I was doing. It's still kind of awkward. We'll just see. Just see how it looks. Yeah, that's kind of fun, isn't it? All right. Turn them into movie clips. Paste that handy dandy glow. Or actually, this is a blur. Glows are a different tutorial. Ooh, that looks funny right there, doesn't it? There's like this highlight coming around and then this dark shape coming off of it, all weird. There we go. That looks better. Alright, I like it. Now if I double click out, and then I hide that layer, and I show this other layer. Oh, my outlines are on here. Double click on this. Turn off this bounding box by making it a guide layer. And you've got yourself a sprite sheet of wispy, heart, magic, love magic, pink dust poofs. And you're ready to put these in a game now. I guess if you wanted, you could go into Photoshop, do a little more of the smudginess and, you know, make them all fancy and wispy and all that kind of stuff. The key is, whatever tool you use, make sure you're mixing up, you know, the straight edges with the fuzzy blurs. You want a healthy mixture of both. These are going to look really directional because Flash insisted that only straight up and down, as we saw earlier. So that's going to kind of actually work nicely for you in game, because now as they move outward, they will feel motion blurred. They'll feel like, you know, they're streaking outward, and the camera can't keep up with them, and it'll look like you've got fancy motion blur in your game when really it's just a hand-painted, handcrafted texture. So yeah, that's how you can get some interesting fuzziness in your shapes. If I wanted, I could refine it even more, add even more fall off. I'm going to do that because this guy's bugging me. Remember this guy? I wanted like this nice fall off. Oh, it's 25%. Put that down to 0. And crank this up. There we go. There we go. Got it. Now that guy's got. He's like, well, it's not enough. You guys thought the tutorial was winding down. We're just getting started. Put that at 15. There we go. Now we got something in there, but it's still a nice gradation falling off there. There's some wispy dust poofs, guys. Hope you learned something.